You're listening to The Business Focused Photographer. If you're ready to transform your photography business into a thriving career, you're in the right place. Each week, we'll discuss fun and innovative ways to boost your creativity and income. Sound good? Let's go.
Welcome back to the podcast. Today, I am really excited to be talking to Katie Doherty. Katie is an LA-based boudoir and maternity photographer. She owns LaRousse Photo. It is an incredible, she's an incredible photographer. You should check her out. Her work is really unique and inspiring. But today, Katie is actually joining me to talk about IPS, which is like such a throwback if you've been in the industry for like a decade or so, because it is coming full circle. But more specifically, IPS for the introverted photographer, which Katie is, as she is self-proclaimed, an introverted photographer, right? Yep. Katie's also the host of the Introverted Photographer Club podcast, which is really cool and fun and always interesting to get a different take and a different perspective as somebody who is not an introverted, maybe an introverted extrovert, but I love to see these different angles and how different personality types can be super successful in this industry, and how you kind of work, make your business work for you in a way that is profitable and enjoyable. So welcome. Thanks for joining me today, Katie.
Thanks, Jill. And Jill was recently a guest on my podcast as well. The episode's not out yet, but it's coming soon.
Yeah, that was a really fun conversation too. I love talking to people who are different from me in certain ways. Maybe not in every way, but in like, especially in this respect when we're talking about business and photography, and always more than one way to skin a cat. So, Katie, give us a little bit of a background on how you came to be a photographer, how you came to get into the niche that you're in, and then your journey to IPS. We'll do the Cliff Notes on this.
Yeah. The Cliff Notes version is I did a big career switcheroo in 2013 or so, from elementary school teacher to photographer. I was just really set on having my own business. Found out pretty early on that working for other people was just not for me. And I first entered the world of wedding photography around 2014. And I think being introverted, it was hard on my system. Like when I went to a wedding for a whole day, I was completely drained. And I was like, okay, maybe I'll shift into elopements or intimate weddings. And that felt like more of a fit. But I feel like along the past 12 years of being a photographer, I've just started working with fewer and fewer people. And that feels more aligned with my energy, and just I enjoy connecting with people one-on-one versus at a wedding. You know, there's a lot of people to interact with.
So many.
Yeah. So I think I started doing portraits. Yeah, I hung up my wedding hat in 2022 officially, and I started doing boudoir and maternity sessions in studio in 2021 was the year. So it's been a little over 4 years at this point. And yeah, the introverted is an interesting piece because it also kind of overlaps with other words I've thrown around, with maybe being a little shy. Shy doesn't necessarily mean introverted, but the way that I define it is just needing time to recharge afterwards. Like I feel my battery level recharging when I'm alone versus being around other people. And I think for in-person sales, when I first started hearing about it, maybe around COVID times, really 2020, 2021, I was like, oh, I don't know. I think that's for salespeople. That's for extroverted people. And I really just didn't think I could do it. And it took some real courage, but I think I found a way to make it work for me. So maternity and boudoir is kind of where I settled as far as specialty. And I've had this studio space since April 2021.
Wow. Quite some time, honestly. I think like it surpasses the statistics of like how, the lifespan of your average business. So kudos on that. And just to like put it out there, Katie is walking the walk. She is highly profitable as a single person studio, and you don't overwork yourself, or at least like you hit your booking goals and you're not totally burnt out. You're not going nuts to hit those income goals. Let's talk about how that social battery, because I do relate to that. I can totally relate to just like, I need to be alone. And I think I'm extroverted, but I just get enough alone time where I don't, my battery is normally pretty well charged. Do you feel like having a lighter client load is part of why IPS makes sense for you? Because obviously when you are having sales sessions, whether or not they are actually in person, you are dedicating more time to each client. Yeah. And then in turn, you are bringing home more money per client as well. And it just translates to fewer clients. So more time and attention and energy per booking, less bookings. Is that why you think part of the reason that it works for you as an introvert?
Yeah, because I think the words drained and overwhelm also come up for me. And I think if you are previously, I was just doing more of an all-inclusive model and was probably definitely also just undercharging in general. I was maybe charging before IPS, $500, maybe $600 to do an engagement session or a boudoir session. And then it was all-inclusive. So they would just have the digital files. And then clearly, if you're at a lower price point, you need more clients to reach your income goals. And I think a word that comes up for me a lot is just getting burned out, like not having time to refuel creatively in between sessions. And so, yeah, I think this works for me because you can have fewer clients at just a higher price point. And yes, maybe you're investing a little bit more time and energy with each client, but ultimately, I think it does really help with just burning out and draining yourself and doing like, for me, I would say in my perfect Katie world, I would do like 4 shoots a month, like once a week. But I think like money wise, doing 2 shoots a week probably makes more sense.
Yeah, I think that would be everybody's perfect world, right? Any photographer, like that is so manageable. And then you really do feel that ability to recharge between you. But I think the worst side effect of burnout is the how it kills creativity. And you just start grasping, and you're either just going through the motions and you're not excited about your work when you're shooting too much. So yeah, and that explains why your work is super creative and fresh. What can you give us like a snapshot of a day in the life of Katie? Of sure. Like today, I know is not a shooting day for you, but like let's compare a shooting day and a non-shooting day for an IPS photographer like you.
Yeah. Well, we'll start with non-shooting day since, yes, that is today. I usually reserve certain days of the weeks for shoots. So just for easy scheduling and coordinating with my hair and makeup artist, we usually try to do shoots on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and some Sundays if the client needs a weekend. Today's Tuesday, but I don't have a shoot today. So instead, it is editing. I do have quite a few photos to edit. So what that looks like more specifically is I did, for example, a boudoir shoot last week, and I cull the images so that she's not overwhelmed. Actually, I'm showing them to her tomorrow. So I'm basically today prepping those images to show her tomorrow. And I usually try to narrow it down to about 100 photos from the session to show the client so that tomorrow she's not overwhelmed and can't choose. So basically, feel free to ask any clarification questions if I'm not explaining this clearly. But we've done the shoot and we have another meeting scheduled. It's going to be on Zoom for tomorrow. And at that meeting, basically, we will select I will help her select her favorite images from the shoot, and then there'll be a corresponding package. And so I have some digital packages she can choose from, and then some printed products. So yes, I need to cull these for her so she's not overwhelmed. And then what else am I doing today? I do often kind of pop out to coffee shops and stuff because I live and work in my studio space, by the way. So I'm here a lot. And sometimes I just get antsy here. So that was my plan after this, was to just go and edit. On a non-shoot day, I might also have like a consultation. I pretty much get on the phone with everybody, or a Zoom call more specifically, with everyone who wants to do a shoot. So I do a few qualifying questions just to make sure they know like what the starting price is, and, you know, they know where the studio location is, and, you know, they sound like they might be a good fit. I don't have any consultations today, so it truly is just an editing day. I might also be, the other day I was ordering, I don't do albums so much as these like matted prints in a box. They're from Vision Art. So they're loose prints that people can keep in this really beautiful presentation box where they can frame and put it on the wall. So ordering products is not a huge part of my day, but it's, you know, might take an hour here and there to order stuff. And that's a non-shoot day. And then as for a photo shoot day, we usually start around 12 o'clock for hair and makeup. And so while my hair and makeup artist, she's lovely. I have 2 hair and makeup artists who I like to switch back and forth between, just so that I don't depend solely on one person. But I offer hair and makeup for all of my sessions. So the girls come in and they get pampered for about an hour and a half. During that time, I'm sort of laying their clothes out, seeing what I want to shoot against what backdrops, you know, getting my camera stuff ready, making Americanos with my I feel very fancy with my espresso machine. I got it sort of for clients because it's nice to be able to offer like a latte or a cappuccino or something, but I also just love it for myself.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a write-off. So well done.
Yeah. And yes, and then the actual photo shoot is about an hour and a half, all done in the studio. And I do a mix of natural light just from these windows that I have here, and then I have a strobe as well, just one light. So very simple studio. I only have around like 3 places that I rotate between backgrounds. And yeah, so the shoot day is about 3 hours, and that's usually all I do, because I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but sometimes people will ask me, they're like, do you do just one shoot a day? I'm like, absolutely, just one shoot a day. I know some photographers stack them just to like crank them out probably, but yeah,
that's so high touch. What you described, it sounds like 90 minutes of prep, 90 minutes of shooting. So it is 3 hours of client time where you are having your professional self present, and it's a lot. It is a lot. I shoot for normally, like, I'm normally with a client for about an hour. And, you know, when I do, like a mini session or any sort of event where it's back to back, it is a lot. It's draining, and in the best way possible. You know, there are worse ways to drain your battery than that. And as a former teacher, you know that really well. I'm a former teacher too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What did you teach?
I taught adults. I taught English to refugees. It was the best. It was actually amazing. My work days weren't that long, but yeah, you're still like running the show, and for 6 hours at a time, and you know, less breaks and less creativity and flexibility with how things are going to go. Especially you as an elementary teacher, you were probably had to be married to a curriculum, and yeah. So being able to be flexible with how I'm spending my time and who I'm spending it with, and on what days and how many days a week. We're spoiled, man. We are so spoiled. I can never, like, I always say, like, I'm feral at this point. Like, I cannot get back into any workforce. Like, nobody would want me. I would be unmanageable, ungovernable. Absolutely not out of the question. So that is really interesting. tell me a little bit about the entire client journey then with you.
Mm-hmm.
So starting from somebody reaches out, you want to get them on the phone or scheduled for a consultation?
Yeah. So my main method right now is Facebook and Instagram ads. And then I also just have some referral based stuff, and people say they find me on Instagram pretty often. And then a little bit of Google search mixed in. So no matter where they find me, they are led to an inquiry form. And after they fill that out, it's just a couple easy questions: name, type of session that you're interested in, how you found me. And then I really love automation and systems, and Zapier is my favorite thing. So if if you haven't used it before, basically it's just a software that's like, if this happens, then this happens.
Yes.
So if somebody fills out my form, then they're added to this Google spreadsheet. I like just a old fashioned spreadsheet
I
for
didn't
keeping
know you
track
could
of
zap
leads.
to a spreadsheet, a Google anything. Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So I have all the leads sort of living in this master Google spreadsheet. And then another step in the Zap is that it will automatically text them. So after they get added to the Google sheet, it'll send them an automated text. I use Haymarket. Have you heard of Haymarket?
I haven't heard of Haymarket. No, tell me about it.
I got kind of grandfathered in at a really good rate. I'm not sure if it's what the rate is now, but it's just you can have a business phone number and text through it basically. So before using Haymarket, I was just emailing people, which was fine, but there's like you get a little closer to people when you're in their cell phone, appearing the text.
Absolutely.
And
I'm just keep talking. I'm going to Google it because I feel I did use something similar at one point that I need to get back on, but sorry.
Yeah,
sorry.
Haymarket, I'm sure there's others, but Haymarket has worked really well for me. So that's another sort of automated step where they automatically get a text message that says, actually, I'm going to pull up my Haymarket so that I can actually explain the flow. I have templates. So it's great because you can create templates. You don't have to reinvent what you're going to say every single time. So basically, I'll just say, hey, this is Katie from LaRousse Photo. You inquired about a photo shoot on our website, correct? And then I'll just put my website at the bottom because sometimes people forget what they filled out.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically, my goal is just to get them to engage. I'm asking really simple questions. After that, if it's a maternity shoot, I'll say, okay, great. I would love to know when your due date is so I can check my availability, and then we can jump into more details. So they'll give me their due date. And so we go a little bit back and forth via text. I want them to know what the session fee is. So I'll say, everyone wants to know pricing. That's why they reach out. So I'll say my session fee is, right now it's $299, and it includes hair and makeup. It includes about an hour and a half shoot, though I don't really time it. But that's just roughly how long they usually are. Right. And a styling consultation is also included in that. So if they do book, we hop on a call to go over outfits before the shoot and create a mood board together. And then I also mentioned that partners are welcome to join, because that's another question people ask a lot. Right. And I don't do any like charges for like extra outfits, or they want to bring their partner. I just like make it extremely easy to say yes.
Yes. Yeah. I'm all about that. So let's say they say yes.
Yeah.
Then what's next?
Yes. So I'll invite them to get on a Zoom call with me. I use Calendly. I'll just send them a link, and they'll be able to choose a day that works for them. And then on that consultation is when I'll go into the pricing in a lot more detail. I have a pretty PDF, and I'll just kind of flow through it and let them know what the process is and explain a little bit more about what's included. And then at the end of the call, I'll say, okay, would you like to move forward, or do you want a little bit more time to think about it? Send them a follow-up email. And then in that follow-up email I'll just send them a link to book the session fee. So the session fee is all that's required to like lock in their date and hold a spot.
Nice. Now, we've had conversations about this part of the client journey and like the things that I preach, because I will always say things like, don't put anything in place of your client booking you, right? Like, don't create any sort of resistance or friction there. However, because you don't want somebody to drop off.
Yeah.
I think in your case, since you're really aiming for like 4 to 8 a month, let's call it 6.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is, and because the fraction, the slice of the market that is actually qualified to work with you is so much slimmer. And you're in a big city. So you really like, I think this makes sense for you to have these steps, and it sets the tone too. Like, this is a really high touch service. This is boutique. I'm going to hold your hand starting now. So I will say, like, despite what I normally advise, take it with an entire salt shaker of salt, because this is an example of the opposite of what I would normally recommend working.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I just want to make that point, because anybody who has listened to my spiel is going to say, well, this is like the opposite of what Jill has told me to do in the past. But here's an example of when I'm wrong, of when that advice is wrong, and when this is the right way to do it, because there's more than one way to do it.
Well, since our conversation about transparent pricing, I did add the package starting price as well. So before, I only had my session fee listed, and then they would have to talk to me to know like what the package costs were. But now I have on there starting at $995.
Right.
So I did tweak it a little, because I think, and also I softened after talking to you, because I would normally insist they get on a Zoom call with me, but I've been playing around with sending them Loom videos. If I really sense that like they don't have time to get on a call, I'll just make them a little 5-minute video. And a couple people have booked that way. So
hey,
there are other options, but I do think at least giving people the choice to get on a call with you is good.
I do like that too. And that's like my whole other soapbox is like, because so many photographers they will avoid the phone like the plague. And it's like, you got to meet your clients where they are. Like, some people are phone people. Some people need that back. And it usually saves time. If people are willing to do a phone call, it saves a lot of time. But anyway, great to hear about the transparent pricing, and Loom is such a great tool.
It
makes
is.
sense for your business too. So cool. So they've gone through this vetting process essentially, and you guys schedule a date. Now they're coming in there. You're coordinating hair and makeup. Are these hair and makeup artists just on standby, and you can, without checking with them first, book any of those 3 days?
I've had kind of trouble with that in the past, because it's like, well, what do I do first? Do I make sure Joy is her name, my hair and makeup artist, is ready or available? And then, which person do I check with first? And so basically I'll give the client like 3 possible days, and then I'll say, I'm just going to confirm with Joy. I got really lucky with Joy. It just works perfectly for us, because she does wedding hair and makeup on the weekends. And so normally during the week she is available. I know other hair and makeup artists might have, different schedules, but yeah, I would just maybe give the client a few different days as options, and then at the same time check with my hair and makeup artist and cross-reference.
Okay, that makes sense. And with you being a studio photographer, you really have flexibility. You're not worried about the weather. You're not worried about the light. You really can just stick to that. So that's cool. All right. So the session comes, like you were saying before, they start hair and makeup around noon, start shooting around 1:30. You go through your posing workflow and all that. After the session, they go on their way. When do you reconvene to show them? And sorry, and you already said that you're culling them. Are you doing any sort of retouching, any color edits, anything like that?
Good question. So on the initial cull, I'll do a quick edit. So maybe I'll put some in black and white. I'll fix the crop. It's very quick though. I'm not doing like a full retouch until I know which images they would like to purchase.
Got it.
Yeah. And I retouch, or I outsource to a retoucher for the final, maybe they choose a package with 15 images, so only those 15 are getting retouched.
Great. So,
Yeah.
and you do all that in their consultation, which you do via Zoom. You don't do their consultation in person. Am I correct?
I do a mix of both. So
Okay.
basically, as part of their onboarding, I use 17 hats. And so they'll get a series of emails that prompts them to book these things. And so I call it photo reveal appointment, is just a Calendly link that they book. I ask them to choose a date around a week after the session. So I do these mostly on Fridays, Wednesdays and Fridays, where I know I won't have a shoot day. And then I do a lot of them on Zoom. Sometimes we'll come in person. I have a TV where I can screen mirror for my laptop, but I just show them in Lightroom, whether I do it on Zoom or in person, because I'm familiar with Lightroom and I just use the star system to rate their favorites. So yes, the day of the shoot, we go over their favorite images. I show them products. Or not, did I say day of the shoot? I meant day of the photo
The reveal. Yeah.
the reveal.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's so cool. So you're going through, and how long does that normally take to kind of walk them through these 100 or so photos?
Yeah.
And then helping them narrow it down. So they probably see all of them first, and then they choose the package, and then they go back and figure out which one will be.
Yeah. I have a pretty good system down where I'll put up 4 pictures on the screen at a time. And I put up 4 pictures on the screen at a time. And what I ask them to do is just, gut reaction, what's your favorite? And then we'll just kind of add them to a favorite pile. And then we go back for a second round and narrow it down. But what was your question around? Oh, how long does it take? It's usually an hour. It really depends how
Okay.
decisive they are, and I help them too. I ask ahead of time. I'm like, is there a package that you're aiming for? If they have a budget for 20 images, I'm not going to try to push like a 50 image package. I think that maybe this is part of introversion. Maybe this is just part of being a good listener. I don't know. But I do think that introverts are really good at like being thoughtful, having attention to detail, being really good listeners. And that kind of goes back to, just guiding people toward what they already want to purchase. And so if I know that they're going to only choose 10 pictures, I'm helping them narrow it down. I'm not saying like, well, they're all great. Like, how are you ever going to choose?
Well, I think this is such an important way to frame it, especially like if somebody is listening and whether or not they're an introvert, I think most of us are kind of turned off by the idea of selling.
Yeah.
Because that's really not why we're here, right? So, but you've really positioned yourself in a way where you are the guide, which is ideal in sales and marketing, and it's a service, and there's no pressure.
Yeah.
I mean, they wouldn't be there if they didn't want to buy. So you
Mm-hmm.
already have that assurance. Like they do want to buy something. They let you know what they want to buy, like what package they want to buy. And now you can kind of just like help guide them, like maybe point out why composition is better in this photo than the other. This one will look great wherever they plan to hang it. And yeah, and that's where you really shine as the expert, right? Because it is overwhelming to get your photos back and figure out what to do with them next and which ones to. Yeah.
I think so too. And that's the feedback that I've gotten from a lot of people is that like when I first started doing this, I'm like, this is annoying. Like, why am I making them do this extra step? Like, because I was still trying to ease into the whole in-person sales thing. But now I've realized a lot of people are like, this is so helpful. I'm so grateful that I have, you to help me narrow these down. And I do help them, make sure they have a variety of poses and all that. So,
yeah. Yeah. What do your clients normally do with the photos?
So I think another sort of interesting misconception about in-person sales is that you have to sell products. And I sell a lot of digital packages. I would say maybe even 75% of clients just want a digital package.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So there's that, which is great and no cost to me. And maybe they're just like, I would rather have more photos and I know what to do with them. Like, I know how to print these and hang
Yep.
them. Like, I don't really need help. But some people are like, no, I definitely need your help. So, my big seller is like a matted print box from Vision Art that I mentioned. And it's an 8x10, and then it has a 5x7 inch print on the inside. That's for maternity. For boudoir, albums are probably the most popular items.
Right.
So
That makes sense. Yeah.
so those are what people do with them. Sometimes they'll want some wall art, but that's not really something that I sell a lot of.
Well, I imagine like I always kind of assume like maternity photos that I produce are like maybe one goes in the maybe one, but even then, like the main event is going to be the baby, and that's who's going to be on the walls. And like these photos are maybe for an album of the baby's first year, or these small tabletop prints or something like that. And of course, boudoir. I mean, maybe some people put boudoir photos on the wall. I mean, you would have to have a certain type of household and
Yes.
social circle.
Yeah, I've had women who definitely want to do wall art, but they put it in a private space and they make it sort of anonymous so that it's more of like an art print than something
Cool.
that's like, that's me.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I was in a client's home recently, and there was nude art on the wall, and it was like for a family session. However, it was sketches. So it wasn't like photo, but still it was like,
Yeah.
you know, it is artsy. It can be super
It
artsy.
can be for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, absolutely. Especially the way I really encourage anybody listening to go and look at Katie's work. It's so good. It really is just I'm always envious and in awe of like the truly artistic photographers who also know how to run their business.
Yeah.
It makes
Thank
you a
you.
unicorn. Yeah. So you touched briefly on like your advertising and your marketing channels of choice.
Mhm.
Can you speak to that a little bit more as somebody who's introverted who also has a more complex client journey that might
Mhm.
need a little bit? I don't know what you communicate in your marketing about the
Yeah.
process.
To be honest, I don't feel like a super skilled marketer. It's always been an area that I've struggled with a little bit, and I'm constantly thinking of ways to improve my website copy. Right now, I'm on this whole project of adding video to my website because I've just
Nice.
never gotten around to doing that, but I know how impactful it can be even for Instagram. So I think where I would start, or where I did start in that department, is just making sure that you have a really clear style that people resonate with. Like, that's actually my best marketing advice, because I hear almost from every woman who reaches out to me, I was looking for a maternity photographer. I almost didn't do it because everything felt cheesy. And then I saw this simple, modern editorial style, and it was just exactly what I wanted. I think that's what you want someone to, that's the thoughts and feelings you want people to have. Like, oh, this is what I want.
Bingo. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. And you want to talk about like longevity of your business by differentiating through your actual art, by not just like buying somebody else's posing course and
Mm-hmm.
editing course and like replicating another photographer, but like figuring out what your style is and sticking to it.
Yeah.
That is the goal for everybody, right? It's like because another thing I talk a lot about is how to make sure you're not a commodity, because that's when you stop getting comparison compared on your prices and shopped for that way. And yeah, the absolute best way to do it is by being a really fucking good photographer.
Mm-hmm.
And it is obviously easier said than done, because the technical piece of photography is super easy. We were talking about this when we talked about associates. It's like you can teach somebody how to use the camera and then even replicate, to take it a step further, replicate your style as the lead photographer.
Mm-hmm.
But figuring out what your voice is as an artist
Yeah.
is so rare. It is so it is not so common in our industry. We have a lot of really talented photographers, a lot of successful ones, but when you're really good at recreating somebody else's style, you may not be in business for as long as you'd like without having to continue to reinvent yourself.
Yeah.
So sorry, that was an absolute sidebar, but something that like has been on my mind that you just kind of triggered, because I do think it's I think it may be glossed over, probably because I've been glossing over it as an educator for a while, the importance of the actual art itself.
Yeah.
When it comes to like commanding higher prices and getting the work and yeah, hate to say it, but yeah, it does a whole lot of marketing for you when it is unique enough and it not comparable to everybody else's work. Then it's like it makes the decision easy. I've been in the position as a client looking for a photographer, and it's like nothing else really matters when I find the photographer who has the style that I'm looking for my family photos. Even price, price becomes way less important when I can no longer compare somebody's work to another person's work because they are so unique.
Yeah. I think it also helps to have a very cohesive style, but like to specialize in a certain genre. I think that also really helps so that, you're not going to my Instagram and you see pictures of dogs and weddings and babies. And it's like, you want that feeling where they land on your grid or your website and they're like, yeah, this is exactly what I was looking for. So maybe step one really is going back to like the craft of it and really getting clear on the type of photography that you're wanting to specialize in and be known for.
Yep. Yeah. I am in the niching down camp. I know that but I know, again, this is another area where, there's more than one way to do it right. And I've seen people do it right where they don't niche down. And it's a whole lot more work though, when you're not niche down. And yeah, there's nothing like finding that specialist, that person who does exactly what you need and only that. And the sort of confidence that you then have as a consumer in the product before you even receive it. It's a game changer, although it's not something that can be done too early in your career. It really takes a lot of experimentation.
It does. Yeah. It takes just kind of trying out what you're interested in to know what ultimately you're interested in. So patience is required.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, this has been so enlightening and inspiring, Katie. Do you have any advice for a person who's tuning in, has kind of interest sparked now about maybe transitioning to in-person sales or virtual sales, and who this would be good for, and the next step if they want to try it out?
Yeah. Well, I feel like this is a good next step. I just think of myself, 5 years ago doing weddings. If you're kind of just feeling burnt out, I think, and you're thinking maybe you're a wedding photographer, for example, and you're thinking, okay, the only way I can make this kind of money is if I give up my weekends and I shoot weddings for, however much, $3,000, $5,000. But I think that there are other ways to charge a higher price point and not get totally burnt out or not be stuck doing something that you don't feel inspired to do anymore. And then the other type of person I imagine is somebody who is a portrait photographer, but they're just not charging enough and they want to, but they're just like either unsure if anyone would pay that much or maybe they just don't know where to start. What would my advice be for them as a place to start? Well, I'll send you the link to it, but it's just like a getting started IPS freebie.
We didn't talk about that. That was just a coincidence. I was not fed that line. Oh, perfect. Wonderful. Because I think that's like that where to even begin is probably paralyzing for some people. Just you don't even know what to
Yeah.
do first.
I think you have to have a really clear offering. So maybe that's step one, like what we were just talking about. Really hone in on like your specialty. And then one of the first steps is maybe to order a sample product. So maybe like one item that you would like to sell. And if you ask the lab to do a studio sample, you will get like a certain discount.
Yeah.
You don't have to pay full price.
Yeah.
And I don't think you need a full product suite. I think if you just have like one product, that's enough to start with. And like I said, you can just offer digital packages. And I think step one is really just trying it, and being brave, and you're going to surprise yourself. I was shocked the first time I tried this and it worked, but it's just like that first hurdle to overcome, which is just to to try it. And maybe that's not a specific enough first step, but I do go into it a little more detail in that freebie.
Well, I think this this sales model is really great for a lot of reasons. And it's I've never done the actual sales. I've had passive digital sales after with a session fee model, but and I still implement that for my studio sessions. But I think that the session fee model, if people are having low bookings, if you have low confidence about the work that you're producing too, this can be a really great model for you. If you're transitioning to a higher price point and eventually maybe want to return back to all inclusive, this is really a great stepping stone. You know, with the IPS model, you are lowering the barrier to entry with the session fee. And the session fee is totally digestible. It's something that most people can say yes to really easily, like you said. And man, even for $300, they are getting a lot, even if they're not getting a photo with included. Like that's a whole experience. The hair and makeup alone, I know from offering that as an add-on and with my motherhood sessions, like people go nuts for when you say there's hair and makeup included. So
Yeah, definitely.
that is like, that's a great value. But then it also shows you what people are actually willing and able to spend with you. So you now have this glimpse. And what do you mind sharing what you would say like your average net is, your gross on your net per client?
I think that's great info to know. So 300 for the session fee. Usually for boudoir, it's a little bit more. And then the average sale, it's actually a little lower for maternity. I would say it's around 2,000 for maternity and around 2,500 for boudoir.
Wow.
So that's the gross sale. And then out of that would come, I pay my hair and makeup artist $250 in Los Angeles she does both hair and makeup. And then another not big, but expense is the retouching. So $5 per photo, which is normally maybe like 20 photos. So that's $100 for retouching. And then, like I said, if they order digital products, that doesn't cost me anything. But if they order an album, could be anywhere from like $300 to $400. So those are the costs that come out of it.
Right. And that's going to fluctuate and be relative to what they spend anyway. So as long as you're priced for profitability when it comes to pricing your products and everything like that, it's a win. That's great and very inspiring. And I know some photographers personally who I think this is like the correct sales model for them, because like with my lifestyle, documentary style family photography, it wouldn't work so well but for my studio work, it works great. And probably leaving money on the table by not having reveals and sales appointments, but it's a great it's a great indicator of what your clients are actually willing to spend without having them commit up front, getting more people in the door when bookings are lower and everything like that. So thank you for sharing all that. I super impressed, super inspired. It, like I said when we started, like this might feel like a blast from the past, because if you came into the industry 10 years ago, it was IPS or bust. And at least that's how it felt. And if you were an all-inclusive photographer, it was like shame.
Yeah.
But I think, and I think that of course that like repelled some people, but of course this is a great sales model, and it does make sense for so many people. And there's a way to do it sustainably, as you have proved, even if you are a more introverted photographer. So thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome. Thanks for listening. Thanks for asking all the good questions. And I hope people feel like this is doable, or at least they have a little spark of inspiration.
Yeah, for sure. So where can people find you? What if people have questions for you directly? Is there a way they can reach out, et cetera, all that good
Yeah.
stuff?
I have my podcast, the Introverted Photographers Club, and then some other free resources. The website's introvertedphotographers.com, which I don't think you have to be an introvert, but I just find that a funny angle to take. And I relate to it. So introverted photographers / any photographer who wants to know more about IPS. And then my main Instagram account where all my maternity and boudoir photos live is at LaRousse Photo.
Got it. And that I will link to that, but it is LaRousse, right?
Correct. Photo.
Yeah. Yeah. Check Katie out. And I think it is helpful to point out that you're the introverted photographer, and this is for introverted photographers, because I bet you that there are plenty of photographers like you who don't feel supported or feel very much as an outcast, as somebody who's working in the service industry who is an introvert. But it doesn't mean that you don't like people. It just means that you really value the relationship, and that you put a lot of energy into each person. Yeah. So this is like, you've struck gold with this business model.
Thank you, Jill. Thanks for having me.
It was great to have you. I hope that you have a super productive day over at the coffee shop. That sounds kind of fun.
Yeah.
Great. So I again, thank you so much for coming on. I will link to all this stuff in the show notes, including that free resource on how to get started with IPS photography. Yeah. And I'll have to have you come back again. This is a really fun conversation.
Yes. Thanks so much.
All right. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye. So until next time, keep shooting, keep creating, and keep building the business that supports your dreams. Have a fantastic week. And remember, in the business of photography, your creativity is your biggest asset.